in a documentary sense. We have provided the court through the clerk with photographs that we would like to use during the course of our sentencing argument.
Sure. All right.
Thank you.
But no testimony other than impact statements.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. So with that, let's start with then impact statements.
Ms. Jennings will be introducing.
And my understanding, just so I'm clear, I indicated through the trial court administrator that we need to see if any of the victims wish to have the camera not running and audio only. And my understanding is all of them indicated they are fine with the video. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
All right, very well. Go ahead.
Your Honor, the first, and we're taking these in the order, victim impact statements in the order that the charges were listed in the indictment. The first charge being burglary. So we will have Bethany Funka's statement, and she has asked that her friend Emily Allant read that statement.
All right, any objection to that? All right, very well.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be speaking on behalf of Bethany, and so, yeah, here it reads. My name is Bethany Funk, and I was roommates with Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I not only lost some of my best friends, but I also lost a sister. Never in a million years would I have thought that something like this would have happened to my closest friends. I thought that we were going to wake up and go upstairs, see them and tell them how they had scared us and that they were going to tease us about how we are constantly scaredy cats. I make jokes about it as we would go to Taco Bell like always. But sadly, that is not what happened and what turned out to be my worst nightmare. When I first woke up that morning, I had no idea what happened. I woke up around 7 with a terrible toothache. So I called my dad, who is a dentist, and he asked what I should do. He told me to take Advil, so I did, and I went back to sleep. I was still out of it and still didn't know what happened. If I had known, I of course would have called 911 right away. I still carry so much regret and guilt for not knowing what had happened and not calling right away, even though I understand it wouldn't have changed anything, not even if the paramedics had been right outside the door. I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory. That was the worst day of my life. And I know it always will be. While I was still in shock, trying to process the fact that my friends were truly gone, I had been attacked by the public. I was grieving, numb, and unsure of what had happened was even real. And at the same time, I was getting flooded with death threats and hateful messages from people who did not know me at all or know the dynamic of our friendship. Social media made it so much worse, and strangers made up stories to entertain themselves. The media harassed not just me, but also my family. People showed up at our house. They called my phone, my parents' phones, other family members' phones, and we were chased while I was still trying to survive emotionally and grieve the loss of my friends. I hated and still hate that they are gone, but for some reason, I am still here and I got to live. I still think about this every day. Why me? Why did I get to live and not them? For the longest time, I could not even look at their families without feeling sick with guilt. I did not know what to say or what to do. I was terrified that my presence just made their pain worse. And I was still here when their kid, their siblings and their friends, their loved ones should have been here instead. After everything happened, I was afraid to go into my own backyard or alone in my house. I was scared that the person who did this would come for me next. I was always scared that the media would try to catch me at any moment of any day, even when I was just walking around my house. I made my parents close all the blinds during the day so no one could see me even in the slightest chance. I barely left the house, and when I did, I made sure I was never alone. I slept in my parents' room for almost a year. I made them double lock every door, set an alarm, and still check everywhere in the room just in case someone was hiding. And I still check my room every night before, and I double lock it. I have not slept through a single night since this happened. I constantly wake up in panics, terrified. Someone is breaking in, or someone is here to hurt me, or I'm about to lose someone else that I love. The fear never really leaves. For a long time, I could barely get out of bed, but one day I realized I have to live for them. They did not get the chance to keep living, but I do, and I will not take that for granted. So now every day I remind myself to live for them, and everything I do it with them in mind. I am still scared to go out in public, but I force myself to do things because I know that they would want me to keep living my life to the fullest. I am beyond blessed to still be here, and I refuse to take that for granted when they did not get a chance. Our house was not just a house, it was a home. It was where we laughed till we couldn't breathe, make meals, did crafts, binge watch reality shows, played games, and spent lazy days on the couch. It was movie nights, wine nights, morning debriefs, pranks, hot chocolate, cookies, and warmth. I would cherish those memories forever, and I will not let what happened erase how special our home was or how much those memories meant to me. Now, I would like to share some bits and pieces of who they were as people and some of the memories that we shared. One of my favorite memories was Halloween, and we all went to Sigma Chi. But instead of partying, we just sat in an apartment, talking and laughing all night long. I do not think I've ever laughed that hard in my life. We did not care about the party. We were just happy to be with each other. Xana was 1 in a million. She was the life of the party. But she was also the kindest and funniest person I knew. Everyone loved her because she made everyone feel so loved. She was just someone you always wanted to be around, no matter the circumstance. One of my favorite days with Xana was when she laid on the couch, when we laid on the couch together all day watching movies and snacking. Or when she, Maddie, and I would go and get margaritas, chips, and salsa. She would also light up a room with her presence alone. Kaylee had the most beautiful, radiant smile, and she was so kind, but also one of the funniest people I've ever known. She loved playing little pranks, and she always had us laughing so hard that we could not breathe. She was so full of energy and life. I really believe that she could have ruled the world if she wanted to, and she would have been America's sweetheart. Ethan was the sweetest, most genuine guy. He was always smiling and always making other people smile too. Ethan was the kind of person you wanted around. He was so kind and easy to talk to and just so fun. And the way he cared for Xana was truly something to admire. And really was proof that storybook love and true romances really do exist. It was not only obvious to me, but everyone that was around Ethan and Xana that they were absolute soulmates. Maddie was not only one of my best friends, but she was the older sister I would have always wanted. There was no one I looked up to or admired more than Maddie. She was truly a ray of sunshine, and everyone was drawn to her. She was so kind, loving, funny, fun, and passionate. She had the sweetest soul and wanted nothing but the best for everyone and to love and show love to everyone. She took me under her wing and always made me feel so safe and included, and above all, loved and valued. She never failed to make me laugh or put a smile on my face. Still to this day, I am beyond grateful that she chose me to be her sorority little, and I thank God every day that I not only got to know her, but had her as one of my best friends. Honestly, I cannot pinpoint one favorite memory with Maddie because I have so many, and this would be a very long read if I did. But if some little memories with her that I cherish is when the two of us made a nice dinner and split some wine, or when we would binge watch Jersey Shore or Summer House. When we came up with a whole dance routine on Halloween and danced and sang all night, like no one was watching. All the late night walks home from going out, and just little shopping trips, so much more. I am beyond blessed that I had the chance to know each and every one of them. They changed my life in ways I would have never put into words. I hope that they are remembered for who they are, not what happened to them, because who they are were so beautiful, and they deserve to be remembered in the highest way. My heart breaks every time I go to text one of them or how badly I wish I could see and hang out with them. And then I remember I cannot. I will never be able to again. But I still talk to them in my prayers every single night, and I always will. I wish more than anything I could hug them one last time. And I wish I could tell them how much I love them. And even though I cannot, I still tell them every night. I will keep living for them as long as I am lucky enough to still be here. And they were all truly one of a kind, and they will be in our hearts forever and always.
Thank you. And please convey to Bethany my appreciation for her courage, and I hope that she heals.
Next is Dylan Mortenson. We're asking for some accommodations for Ms. Mortenson and that she be allowed to sit in my seat.
Sure. Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Thank you, Your Honor. What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, four beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried it into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell them that I love them and that I'm so proud of them. He took away who they were becoming and the futures they were going to have. He took away birthdays, graduations, celebrations, and all the memories that we were supposed to make. All of it is gone. And all the people who loved them are just left to carry that weight forever. He didn't just take them from the world. He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home, the people I looked up to and adored more than anyone. He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. We had just celebrated my birthday at the end of September. I should have been figuring out who I was. I should have been having the college experience and starting to establish my future. Instead, I was forced to learn how to survive the unimaginable. I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out? What can I use to defend myself? Who can help? And then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. People call me strong. They say I'm a survivor, but they don't see what my new reality looks like. They don't see the panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the exhaustion, the way I scan every room I enter, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. They don't know how heavy it is to carry so much pain and still be expected to keep going, and that's because of him. He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive? He may have shattered parts of me, but I'm still putting myself back together. Piece by piece, I'm learning how to live in this new version of life. It is not easy. It hurts, but I'm still trying. Still trying, and I'm not trying just for me. I'm trying for them, my friends. About a year ago, I had a dream about them. I got to say goodbye. I told them I won't be able to see you again, so I need to tell you goodbye. They all kept asking why, and all I could say was, I can't tell you, but I have to. When I woke up, I felt shattered and heartbroken, but also strangely grateful. Like maybe in some way that dream gave us the goodbye we never got. Still, no dream can replace them, and no goodbye will ever feel finished. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud. Living is how I honor them. Speaking today is to help me find some sort of justice for them. And I will never let him take that from me. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice. He will never take the memories I had with them. He will never erase the love we shared, the laughs we had, or the way they made me feel seen and whole. Those things are mine. They are sacred, and he will never touch them. I get to feel sadness. I get to feel rage. I get to feel joy even when it's hard. I get to feel love even when it hurts. I get to live. And while I will still live with this pain, at least I get to live my life. He will stay here, empty, forgotten, and powerless.
Dylan, thank you so much for your courage. I appreciate it.
Next, we have members from the Madison Mogan family. First would be Scott Laramie, Madison Mogan's stepfather. Standing by him is Karen Laramie, Mortenson's mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Scott Laramie. I'm Maddie Mogan's stepfather and the husband of Maddie's mother, Karen Laramie. I will read this victim impact statement on behalf of Karen and myself. Maddie was our gift of life, our purpose, and our hope. Maddie quickly became Karen's joy, identity, and purpose in life. I joined Maddie's life when she was 2.5 years old. Experience transformed me into a life of joy, love, and family. Maddie was bright, beautiful, kind, empathic. She listened carefully to others and was observant, seeing and caring about the hearts and the minds of all she encountered. She loved music and music festivals. She had a wonderful sense of humor. She excelled in school. She was an easy child to raise, almost never requiring discipline, and almost always giving us parental joy. One time Karen remembers disciplining Maddie as a little girl. Maddie responded, "You broke my heart," which of course melted ours. She had a keen wit, even at that young age. As she transitioned into teenage years, she prioritized us and extended family over many of the distractions that capture teenagers. She showered us with her presence and love at family events, barbecues, picnics, birthdays, holidays, and others. She spent countless hours with her papa, her uncle David, Aunt Nadine, and her other close family and friends. This world was a better place with her in it. As she reached adulthood, Maddie applied her studies to be a marketing professional, entering into an internship at Payne West, and started planning her professional future. As with all things, she involved Karen and myself in the joy of her journey. As she transitioned into womanhood, Karen and I continued to be astounded at this wonderful and accomplished person we had created. All parents dream of their children accomplishing more than them. We realized this dream, all we had not become, she was becoming. Karen and I are ordinary people, but we lived extraordinary lives because we had Maddie. Maddie was taken senselessly and brutally in a sudden act of evil. She was taken along with the young, promising, and bright lives of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. First, we felt disbelief. Next, we felt disorientation. Then we felt grief overcome us. Our grief is compounded even more for the Goncalves, Kernodle, and Chapin families. We speak of hope and healing, and we do have hope and some healing. But the vast emotional wound will never fully heal. Since Maddie's loss, there's emptiness in our hearts, home, and family, an endless void. After losing her mother in a car crash, Karen took years to grieve and recover. The feeling that her life with Maddie and A was perfect helped her to start to heal. Now, this is no longer perfect. After Maddie's loss, Karen felt like she was spinning out emotionally collapsing into anxiety and depression. She sometimes asks, how am I supposed to go on when I've lost my favorite person in the world. I felt the same, and we continue to struggle. The loss of Maddie has impacted so many beyond our family. Her second family is her sorority sisters who grieve alongside us. She has so many close friends who suffer from her loss. We will continue to be, her loss will continue to be felt by the Vandal community, including Vandal Solutions on campus, where she volunteered her time for others. It helps us to know Maddie is in heaven now, freed from the trials of this earth. We, however, continue to live on without the grace and support of her presence. We will grow old without our only child, our bright, beautiful friend and daughter. In the end, there are no words that can accurately capture the devastation of losing Maddie. We will endure and we will go on. For Maddie, we will not let our grief consume us. For Maddie, we will continue to love and care for our family and friends, including the families of Kaylee, Santa, and Ethan. We will remain united with them. We can only hope that others out there suffering similar losses can look to us and see that we can overcome hatred, darkness, and evil. We know the law allows us to comment on the defendant and his sentence. As for his sentence, we support the plea agreement. Society needs to be protected against this evil. As for the defendant, we will not waste the words, nor will we fall into hatred and bitterness. Evil has many faces, and we now know this, but evil does not deserve our time and attention. We are done being victims. We are taking back our lives. We will turn our time, talents, and attention to hope, healing, and helping others, and to the future. We invite all those who have suffered with us on this to join us in our journey. We can make this world a better place. We can move on from tragedy. Adversity will visit us, evil will visit us, but we will overcome. We can and will endure. Karen and I express our gratitude to Your Honor and to the prosecution team for allowing us the opportunity to make this statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courage, and I am so sorry for your loss. God bless
Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is Leander James. He's the attorney for the Mogan family and victim advocate. He'll be reading a statement for Karen Laramie.
May it please the court, counsel. My name is Leander James. I am the pro bono counsel for Karen and Scott Laramie. Karen has asked me to read this statement into the record. I thank my husband, Scott, for his statement, his courage, and his unending love and support during this dark time. While words are inadequate to capture the impact of this horrific crime on our family, he expressed it as best anyone could. For Maddie's sake, I will add my supplement statement that incorporates additional impact in the context of my extended family. I am grateful to Maddie's great uncle, Bryan Kohberger, for assisting me with the difficult task of putting our pain into words. For me and my extended family, Maddie was our hope and our light. Her beauty, both outside and in, shone its light upon everyone with whom she came in contact. Her beauty, she carried that hope and light into the future for our entire family. We have memories of our Maddie and grief and pain at her being taken from our presence. Any one of us would have given our own light to have been outshone by hers. We now look to our Creator to know that her light continues where we look to see her in His presence. Those who commit evil for their own twisted gains and purposes truly defile the efforts and sacrifices of mothers, fathers, families, teachers, clergy, public servants, service members, and all those who commit themselves to the greater good, freedoms, and the future light of our nation. Condemnation falls heavily upon those who squandered the lives of our future hopes and dreams. Some may offer forgiveness for what the defendant has done. However, we cannot at this time, or perhaps ever, nor will we ask for mercy for what he has done. His acts are too heinous. The agony and grief he has caused, too great. But we will waste no further words or thoughts on him. For Maddie's sake, we will move on. We will do our best to carry Maddie's light into this world and make it a better place. I thank the court and the prosecution for allowing me the opportunity to make my statement. And I thank all those who have and will support my family and the families of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Larmy. Appreciate it.
Next is Ben Mogan, the father of Maddie Mogan. Actually, Your Honor, it'll be Kim Cheeley, the grandmother of Maddie Mogan.
My name is Kim Cheeley. I was Maddie Mogan's paternal grandmother, as Ben Mogan, her father, is my son. I'm here today with my sister Lori Cheeley, Maddie's great aunt, and my son Ben Mogan, and my daughter-in-law Corey Hatrock. I'd like to begin by thanking a number of people involved in bringing this case to closure. In my daughter's words, the plea deal the prosecution team reached this month is one that punishes the perpetrator of this horrendous crime, protects the public from further harm, and allows all of us who knew and loved these kids the time to grieve without the anxiety of the long and gruesome trial, the years of appeals, and potential for mistrials along the way. My family and I are so grateful to Bill Thompson and his prosecution team for their dedication and painstaking work that forced the perpetrator to admit his guilt. We want to thank the Idaho State Police, the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and Judge Hippler. We'd also like to thank the University of Idaho officials who've treated the families of the victims with such dignity and kindness, and who have honored the 4 victims beautifully. Maddie was my first grandchild, so when she was born, all her grandparents had the distinct pleasure of deciding what we'd like to be called. I chose Nana, pretty original. But when Maddie was about 1.5 years old, her papa, Ben's dad, and I were planning to visit the new little family in Oregon. Maddie didn't have an extensive vocabulary at the time, but for some unknown reason, she called bananas ba-deedle-deedles. When Karen and Ben told her Nana was coming to visit, she figured I say deedle deedle for that word. So I became deedle deedle, shortened to Deedle when she was about 6 or 7, and I was Deedle all her life. I don't think her stepdad, Scotty, ever knew my given name was Kim. Maddie's and my birthdays were one day apart, and a couple years before she was killed, she gave me this necklace with Deedle and Maddie engraved on it, and I added an angel wing, and it's one of my treasured possessions. I also got an angel wing tattoo, never thought I'd see the day, but along with many members of our family, replicating the one that Maddie and her sorority sisters had. I wanted mine where I could see and touch it often. From preschool through grade school, I stopped teaching piano lessons early on Wednesdays and picked Maddie up for bubble baths, brownies, and books. It was our special time together. And she went home those nights in her jammies with a pan of warm brownies for her family. Although Karen and Scotty raised Maddie and did such a lovely job of parenting, we Mogans were lucky to have her for holidays and many other family gatherings. We'll always have our treasured memories of Maddie growing up in our big extended cooperative family. And I thank Karen and Scotty Laramie for being so generous and open and sharing Maddie with her Mogan side of the family. When the 4 kids were murdered, the foundation fell out of our world. Initially, the fear was truly debilitating. The first 6 weeks were excruciating. Despite the vigils, memorials, candlelight gatherings of students, friends, family, community members. After the arrest in the past 2.5 years, my family has lived with grief, with the effects of traumatic grief, of which I was blissfully unaware before all of this. I now have a stack of books on grief. I've attended grief classes at hospice. I've tried EMDR, a technique that helps replace disturbing visions with something more comforting. My son, Ben, his 2 sisters, Maddie's aunts, and I have all experienced depression and anxiety and sleep disturbance, requiring medical intervention at times. We've all sought counseling off and on. The struggle with media attention was extremely difficult, especially for Ben. No one should live through the violent murder of one's child. Some days it's beyond me how the parents of these kids are still upright. I'm thankful for the strong families and communities that are supporting.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Dollinger. I am the Chief of Police of the Moscow Police Department. Thank you for joining us. Today marks the conclusion of a case that has profoundly impacted the University of Idaho, the city of Moscow, the state of Idaho, and communities nationwide. Today's sentencing of Bryan Kohberger brings the legal process to a close following his conviction for the brutal murders of Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. While this marks the end of a long and challenging journey through the criminal justice system, we acknowledge that for the families, friends, and loved ones of these 4 young people, the grief does not end because the losses are permanent and the pain remains. We want to express our deepest gratitude for their strength and resilience during this challenging time. We will honor their loved ones' memories and reaffirm our commitment to ensuring their lives are not forgotten. This investigation, one of the most complex and high-profile cases in our state's history, was made possible by an extraordinary level of collaboration. From local and state police officers to federal agents and analysts, as well as prosecutors, forensics teams, and technical experts. It also took immense courage, patience, and resilience from a grieving community whose role was invaluable. From the very beginning of this tragedy, Moscow Police Department and our law enforcement partners never lost sight of the mission, which was to bring justice for the victims and their families, and to hold accountable the person who committed these horrible crimes. Despite the complexity of this case, our team never wavered. They never gave up, and we completed the mission. During this investigation, I was fortunate to witness the level of professionalism, expertise, drive, and passion that each member of the investigative team brought to the overall effort. And it was truly awe-inspiring. To all who came to our aid and assisted in this immense undertaking, I cannot express my gratitude enough. We are forever thankful. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the amazing communities of Moscow and the University of Idaho. For weeks on end during this investigation, the support you provided to our team was greatly appreciated. The numerous phone calls, letters, and seemingly endless stream of food helped keep our spirits high and encouraged us to press on. Today, we want to provide an opportunity to hear from the key agencies involved in the investigation, prosecution, and overall response to this case. Each agency played a vital role in pursuit of truth and accountability. Further remarks will be provided by the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, followed by the Idaho State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Office of the Attorney General. Each speaker will provide brief comments, followed by a limited Q&A session. With that, I'd like to introduce Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson, representing the Latah County Prosecutor's Office.
Thank you, Anthony. Welcome, everybody. It's been a long time since we've been able to stand in the same room together. You have to listen to me talk. I'm sorry. First off, I want to thank the folks here in Ada County. I can tell you I would much prefer to be in Latah County right now and be able to talk to the people most directly impacted by this. But Ada County has been a phenomenal support and protector for the integrity of this case. And I just want to send that shout out right now. So today, you are all, I think, listening in either in person or with the live stream. We have reached the conclusion of the judicial process. And we believe we've achieved accountability and finality and certainty for everyone who has suffered from this, so we can try to move on. As you are aware, Mr. Kohberger pleaded guilty to all 5 counts of the indictment. He pleaded guilty as charged. There was no plea bargain to change charges, drop charges. He pleaded guilty straight up, and he admitted under oath to Judge Hippler the allegations are true. He has also received a life and death sentence, and that he is going into the Department of Corrections custody, and he will remain there until he dies. And our communities are protected from him. Our communities are safe from him. And we have finality and conclusion, not just for the families, but for everyone who suffered because of this. Chief Dollinger talked about the extraordinary teamwork on this case. I can tell you that Ashley Jennings, my senior deputy, and I, we were with the investigators from day one. We worked as a team beyond any team that I've seen in my almost 33 years as a Latah County prosecutor and 45 years as an attorney in Idaho. This level of collaboration is indescribably phenomenal. And in this room, we have representatives of the FBI and here, of course, Special Agent Grover. We have representatives from the Idaho State Police. We have representatives from the Moscow Police Department. We have representatives from the Office of the Idaho Attorney General. I can tell you, I will be forever grateful for the assistance that Jeff Nye, the head of the criminal division, and his deputy attorneys general, Ingrid and Maddie, standing beside him, offered to us. I don't know that we would have been able to reach the conclusion that we have today as successfully without their brilliant and dedicated work. And they too have lived this case from the get-go. Our hearts and prayers go out to the families, not just the immediate biological or legal families, but the university family, the 1122 King Street family. You all saw the group picture, and you've seen that group picture so many times over the past 2.5 years. And now you have real faces to go with those young, vibrant people who, 4 of whom were killed 12 hours, half day after that picture was taken. We respect the families. We realize that we had tough decisions to make, and we made them, but we did not make them in a vacuum. As I said in court today, we reached out to the families. We asked their thoughts. We listened to what they had to say. We accept and recognize that not everybody agrees with the decision we made, but this isn't a popularity contest. We made what we thought was the most appropriate decision under the law and on the facts to give this case closure in a sense that would never be realized otherwise. Judge Hippler talked today about, I guess, the fallacy of expecting that there would be some miraculous coming clean and disclosure from the defendant. In the first instance, as the judge said, he doesn't have the power to compel that. We, the state, don't have the power to compel that. And as a practical matter, it would not be helpful. It would give him a forum to share whatever he thought to control the dialogue. Not going to happen to our victims. We can't allow that to happen. So I'll say this with caution. I look forward to your questions. I will be perfectly honest with you. I will answer them as best I can. If I can't tell you the answer to something, I'll tell you. And I ask for your assistance and your respect as we walk through that, because there are still people who are suffering, and I'm not going to victimize families. I'm not going to victimize the deceased again. And I'll just tell you that if we get those sorts of questions. But we'll get that in a little bit. Right now, what I would like to do is hand the podium over to Colonel Bill Gardner from the Idaho State Police so he can share his agency's perspective on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Colonel Bill Gardner, Director of the Idaho State Police. To the families, your courage and strength throughout this painful process, it indeed kept us moving forward. Your strength, and particularly your love for one another, was inspiring, and it motivated all of us. You've carried a burden no one should ever have to bear. This investigation demanded the very best from everyone involved. Crime scene teams, forensic scientists, intelligence analysts, and investigators answered the call with professionalism, precision, and resolve. They did not do it for recognition. They did it because 4 innocent lives were taken, and the victims and their families deserve nothing less. It is clear this case required a team approach. Not only did the Moscow Police Department, the Latah County Sheriff's Office, the Idaho State Police, and the FBI come together quickly, but others provided significant assistance behind the scenes. I'd like to highlight a few of those. I personally want to thank Colonel Paris of the Pennsylvania State Police. Once this case moved across the country, the Pennsylvania State Police went out of their way to provide resources and support while our people were on the ground there. Also, it's important to note that from the moment this case began, Governor Little was fully supportive of the investigative process. He provided funding and support to make sure the job was done right. And finally, as was already mentioned, the Idaho Attorney General's office provided significant input and help during the preliminary motions. We relied heavily upon their expertise as we moved throughout this whole process. As law enforcement officers, we often say that this is more than a job, it's a calling. This case reminds us why we answer that call, why we stand for victims, why we fight. In this case, why we fight pure evil, and why we keep going. Even when the road is long and answers are hard to find. In this horrific case, I am proud of the work that was done and the people who carried it out. They exemplify the very best of our profession and helped bring closure to 4 families. I'll now turn the podium over to Salt Lake City FBI Field Office Supervisory Senior Resident Agent, Brett Grover.
Good afternoon. My name is Brett Grover. I'm the Supervisory Senior Resident Agent in our Coeur d'Alene office of the FBI, which is part of our FBI Salt Lake City Division. On behalf of the FBI, we offer our deepest condolences to the families of Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xander Canoodle, and Ethan Chapin. The culmination of this case was a long time coming, and we hope the victims' families and friends have some sense of peace in knowing that Bryan Kohberger is being held responsible and accountable for his heinous actions. The FBI is proud to have supported the Moscow Police Department in the state of Idaho with the investigation and prosecution of this case. Countless hours have gone into this investigation. The FBI dedicated significant resources to include digital and forensic analysis, intelligence support from our folks at FBI headquarters and field offices around the country, and victim services, which continue to this day. Today's sentencing also demonstrates how the responsible use of investigative genetic genealogy, or IGG, can transform a crime scene into accountability and closure. The IGG process involves the use of DNA analysis combined with traditional genealogy research to generate investigative leads for unsolved violent crimes. In late 2022, IGG provided a crucial investigative direction for investigators working this case. But I want to be clear, IGG was just one tool that led us here today. It's a powerful complement to the core investigative work done by both the FBI and our partner agencies. The bottom line is that successful cases like this are about strong partnerships and a shared goal. The goal of keeping our communities safe and providing a measure of justice for the families of our victims. Thank you. I'll now turn the time over to the Attorney General for the state of Idaho.
Good afternoon. I'm Raul Labrador. I'm the Attorney General of the state of Idaho. Today's a heavy day for the families who lost their children, for the community of Moscow, and for the entire state of Idaho. With the sentencing today, a painful chapter closes in one of the darkest and most heartbreaking moments in our state's history. We're here because 4 young lives were stolen from us far too soon. They were full of promise. They had dreams and aspirations, people who loved them, and communities that believed in them. Their loss is immeasurable. Their absence is felt every day, not only by their families, but by classmates, friends, neighbors, and all of us who came to know their names and their stories. There is no sentence that can bring true justice for this kind of evil. Nothing we do today can undo the heartache or fill the empty chairs at family tables. But today's sentencing ensures one thing, that the perpetrator will never again walk free. In fact, he will never harm another family. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Prosecutor Bill Thompson, whose steady leadership has guided this case from the beginning, to the people of Layton County for their trust and commitment to justice, and to the state of Idaho. And to the state, also to the local and federal law enforcement communities who have been focused on bringing justice for the victims. I also want to recognize Jeff Nye, who's the chief of my office's criminal law division, and the team of attorneys in my office who work side by side with local prosecutors. Their contributions were quiet but vital. They help protect the grand jury's work. They push back against legal challenges and successfully defended the use of advanced forensic tools that helped identify Kohberger. These were groundbreaking legal efforts done with resolve, with care, and in the name of public safety. Their outstanding legal work spared the families and the public from a drawn-out, painful trial that would have reopened wounds and prolonged the family's agony. When I became the Attorney General 2.5 years ago, I interviewed Jeff Nye. He was not the chief of the criminal division at the time. And I asked him if there was anything he would change in the office of Attorney General. If you get to know Jeff, he had a long list. It was a very long list of things that he would change in the criminal division. But the first thing he talked about was the fact that our office was not helping local prosecutors with their prosecution. It was a take it or leave it kind of approach, that we either took the case and handled all the matter, or we did nothing at all. And he said that there were important cases where we could actually assist in the Office of Attorney General. It's one of the reasons I hired him to be my chief of the criminal division. And I think today culminates the wise decision that he had to make those changes and the important change that we made in the office. This moment didn't come easily. It was the result of tireless effort, careful preparation, and unwavering pursuit of the truth. Behind the scenes, our legal teams worked diligently to defend dozens of legal challenges. Their efforts not only helped ensure a just outcome, they also spared the families and the community from the painful trial and endless appeals that would have reopened deep wounds. To the families of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, no words from any of us, no legal ruling, and no sentence from a judge can heal what you've endured. But I want you to know this. My sincere wish is that you have not carried this burden alone. Idaho grieves with you. Idaho stands with you. And your children's names will not be forgotten. We honor them, not only with our words today, but with our commitment to protecting others in their memory. I will never stop fighting for the people of Idaho, and I thank every single member of this community who has just reached out to the families and supported them. And may God bless the souls of the victims and the families who have suffered.
Thank you. Now we will transition into our question and answer phase. Joining me at the podium will be Bill Thompson with the prosecutor's office and the two lead investigators, Brett Payne and Darren Gilbertson. Just a couple of things before we begin. We recognize that everyone has a lot of questions. We're going to try to do our best to get to as many as we possibly can. Also, keep in mind that there are still some things that we are unable to talk about because of either privacy interests for the victims and their families, and or they are under seal currently in the court. So if those items do come up, then that will certainly be the answer that you will receive. And to keep this sort of orderly, I will try to be the one to point out who's got their hands up. Right there.
Chief Dollinger,
Yes.
I'm Rolly with Crime 2 in Spokane. What more can you tell us about the release documents that the police department is working on putting online, and what can we expect with that?
Certainly. As we put out in that press release, I hope everybody can understand the immense amount of information that's in this investigation is going to take a lot of time to prepare. It has to be gone through legally to be redacted or figured out whether or not it can actually be released. So I did get word today. It sounds like our website will be going live hopefully this afternoon. There should be another press release coming out in the next few hours to show that website so that people can start accessing that. Initially, what is going to be on there, and certainly this is just for the Moscow Police Department because we're only the holders of our records, but it will be all of our police reports from this investigation. So just the documents there. They'll be redacted, ready to go, again, free of charge for the public. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can, so we wanted to get those out to everyone.
Chief, from the very beginning, your department was saying this was a targeted attack. Can you now say who was the target and what's your evidence to show that?
I'll turn that question over to the investigators to answer that one.
Well, I think Darren and I have, the evidence suggests that there was a reason that this particular house was chosen. What that reason is, we don't know. We don't know who the target was, and we're not going to speculate on that up here today. But we can tell you that for whatever reason, Mr. Kohberger chose that residence. Perhaps it's the location, layout, we don't know. But that's, to the best of my knowledge, that's what that statement likely led to.
Haley Gunther, KHQ. There was a social media account that surfaced that has long had speculation that it was Bryan Kohberger. Can you talk at all about the Papa Roger potential connection, if any?
Right, there was no connection. There wasn't at all. We looked into every bit of it. We took a deep dive into it. We researched it.
It wasn't him?
It was not. It was not. Thank you. We cut that off.
Is it possible that there was a second or weapon, not just the knife?
Is it possible? All the evidence shows and tells us that he used a knife, a K-bar knife. And that's a weapon we believe was used to commit all murders.
It sounded like the Gonzalez family said that there was a second weapon that he was in his office.
Out of respect for the families, that's something that you'll have to get from them. If they wish to share that with you, it'd probably be through them, not through us.
And one more question. You said that it seemed like he chose that house. There's no clues as to why he chose that house?
You know, after working in Moscow for several years as Chief Dollinger, that area is frequented by many, many people at all hours of the night when college is in session. So what Darren and I have surmised is that perhaps it's the old hiding in plain sight. There's lots of people around. There's lots of vehicles around at all hours. It's not isolated where you'd be noticed. So that's where that comment comes from.
It does. And no, it doesn't make sense. And it's if you were in that neighborhood at all, it's a very complicated neighborhood. It's very closed in. But at the same time, there's everything from college kids to adults that live there, people that have full-time jobs, part-time jobs. So any one of us could come and go in.
DA Thompson, during the plea hearing and then again today, it seemed like your voice quivered a bit when you were either putting up photographs or mentioning, and then again today, it seemed like your voice quivered a bit when you were either putting up photographs or mentioning the victims' names. I'm just wondering about the emotional toll. And I have one other question.
Yeah, you're right. My voice was quivering. Y'all were in there. There's a lot of powerful emotions. The losses are almost indescribable. And maybe my filters aren't as good as they might have been 45 years ago when I started in this business. But I think you also saw that even Judge Hippler was affected and impacted by this. There is no easy way to remain stiff-lipped and dry-eyed through this kind of tragedy. There just simply isn't.
I'm sure you're not aware of this yet, but there was a photograph where they zoomed in on a picture that Bryan Kohberger had on the defense counsel table. It was an image of a black heart. I don't know if you've heard this or you've seen the image. Hearing this, your thoughts?
First, I've heard of it. There is something I need to say though real quick. This is the product of, I'm sure I'm getting old in my failed memory, but there's one other person I need to recognize, and this is very important to us because this was a key person that was going to take us through trial, and that's Josh Herward, the former United States Attorney for the District of Idaho who left office and voluntarily joined our office as a special deputy to help us. My apologies for the oversight as I wasn't reading my notes correctly, but thank you for that little interlude. Chief?
I guess my question is for Mr. Thompson, since you're still up there, and I'll give you the long time. You said that it was your decision to accept this plea agreement. It brings finality, people die in prison. But Corporal Payne said they don't know who the target was and why he targeted this house. Was there a reason why, as part of the agreement, you didn't require Nancy Taylor to have her client sit down with you all and to answer some of these questions?
I think that Judge Hippler addressed that today very, very well. Of course, Judge Hippler addresses everything very well, we found. The law does not give the court or us the power to require a specific factual allocution. And just let me finish. And we recognize that. We recognize that we could have said, well, in order for us to move forward, we want a factual allocution. But I have to be perfectly candid. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be the truth. I don't believe that there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would be anything other than self-serving. And I don't believe there's anything that would come out of his mouth that would not further victimize the families. And so that just simply wasn't a factor. We made our decision based on our assessment of the law and the facts. We made our decision based on being able to obtain accountability and certainty, not just for the victims' families, but for the communities and for the state. And that's where our obligations go. In the end, and the old Harry Truman thing, the buck stops on my desk. Well, that's what I got when I was elected prosecutor 33 years ago. I never dreamed it would involve something like this, but we don't shirk our responsibilities just because it got big and nasty.
Thank you. Corporal Payne and Lieutenant Mortensson. First of all, I want to say to Corporal Payne that the Chamber family told me that you called them every night during that nearly 7-week manhunt, even though you didn't have to. And I just think that that goes to show that there's no care you put into this. So that being said, I'm curious as to where you think or believe the murder weapon is, where you think or believe clothes Kohberger was wearing that night are. How do you think he avoided forensics?
Well, I can just tell you, and forgive us if we go back and forth, it's just kind of how we roll. But there is no evidence that we found that would lead us to any specific, even general location as to where the murder weapon or the clothes have been. And we searched. I mean, the FBI, again, to their credit, we had folks doing soil samples and so all sorts of things to try to come up with somewhere to start searching for these things, and we just never found it. As far as the forensics piece, I'll let Darren speak to
Yeah,
that.
and on the weapon, it wasn't a lack of trying. Everywhere that we had evidence of where he went, based upon phone records, based upon the evidence that we had gathered, we searched that. We went there. We did searches on the ground, in the water. We did searches. We sent soil samples to try to figure out maybe where a shovel had been used. So we searched everywhere that we possibly could. But the reality is we're looking for a singular small, it's not that small, but K-bar knife. And that's it. So it's endless of where it could have been, and we just were not able to find it. So
What about the clothes and his ability to avoid forensics at the scene, in a murder scene where we now know David Gonzalez was stabbed 34 times and then another victim was stabbed more?
right. So the reality is that somebody can carry this out and still not get covered in blood. That's the reality of it. And this does happen. And there's plenty of studies of that. And we've had some of the world's experts that we've asked those same questions because we've struggled with that. Why do we not find more here and there? And the reality was, if somebody has the training, if somebody has thought about it, if somebody wears the right type of clothing, that could be the outcome. And that's what we were left with here.
Chief of SARS was CNN, Mr. Thompson, did you do psychological testing on Bryan Kohberger? Did that weigh into your decision to have a plea deal? And the stabbings, multiple stabbings are very personal. How did you assess that mode of murder?
I can tell you that psychological testing was done with Mr. Kohberger. The results of that do not rise to a defense to his conduct under Idaho law. The results of the various testing, most of it done by the defense on behalf of the defense, it's also sealed by court order. So I can't speak to any specifics, but I can tell you, yes, psychological testing was done. I can also tell you that no, psychological testing or any potential psychological condition, Mr. Kohberger, that did not play a role in our decision.
Bill, does it have any bearing on where he will be placed or housed?
Where Mr. Kohberger, where the defendant is going to be housed is going to be up to the Idaho Department of Correction. And that could very well change over time. And the reality is we will know about it after it happens.
Over here.
Did you monitor Mr. Kohberger's communications while he was incarcerated? And did he say anything that was helpful or gave you any insight as to why he did this?
Yeah, we did monitor it, both while he was housed in Latah County and then once he's moved down to Ada County. We have hundreds, thousands of hours of monitoring that was done, but there was nothing of evidentiary value that was gained from any of it.
Will you be releasing those conversations?
It's my understanding that the jail will not be releasing things that involve personal conversations with third parties. That ultimately would be a decision because the recordings are in possession of the 2 correctional facilities or detention facilities. But I'm pretty certain Latah County Sheriff's Office policy does not allow for that. And I would guess Ada County is similar. You can ask them.
Back here.
Thank you. Greg Fisher with CBS News 48 Hours. Was there any evidence that Kohberger was following the social media of any of the victims?
So trust us, we wanted that to be the case. We've looked for a link and we have not found one. Not one.
Yeah, through the entire investigation, I think that's something that we need, that you want, is to help to understand this and say, well, what's the connection? What was the link? And so we had every resource possible and we worked that tirelessly, both from everything from his side, but all the victims and all the members of the house from their side. So we have never to this date found a single connection between him and any of the 4 victims or the 2 surviving victims.
Michael Ruiz from Fox News Digital. My question's for the investigators. You guys are going through this case. You got a lot of evidence about his background, his education, his training. You said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive?
We don't.
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting. This question is for Anthony Dollinger, actually. I remember when Anthony was beat cop, assigned to talk to us at the very beginning when all of this happened, and now you're running the show. So I wanted to ask, as a community member, has this case shaped and changed how you're doing this?
It's changed everyone involved. How could it not? It was a devastating tragedy to our community, and our police department is part of that community, and it was very difficult for us as well. So, this is just one of those things that will not define us, but it is certainly a part of our history that we will never forget. Yes.
Rebecca Finn, Associated Press. The perhaps unprecedented level of interest in a case like this in Idaho was matched by an extremely high level of secrecy with the case. The Gonzalez County has said that they're desperate for answers about what happened to their daughter. Do you anticipate most of the court documents being sealed, or are there things that you will specifically request remain sealed?
As far as the court documents, Judge Shipler told us that he is going to work with the attorneys to go through every sealed document. Many, probably most of the documents were sealed for the purpose of protecting against tainting a jury pool. And those documents I would expect would become unsealed. Requests for discovery, various things like that. There are also documents in there that contain very personal, private information regarding victims and families. I expect those likely will not be released under Idaho's protections against what the law calls unwarranted invasions of personal privacy. I realize that can be frustrating for folks who want to be able to explore this thoroughly, but we have to balance, and the law balances, the privacy of the people who have suffered, including the victims who are dead, with giving the public as much information as we responsibly can.
Alex Duggan, the spokesman review. I'm just wondering, did a lack of knowing the reason or the motive concern you when prepping for trial? Because juries tend to want to explore the motive or reason for a crime. And also, how do you as investigators and attorneys grapple with that? Because if you can't rationalize something irrational, then how do you continue knowing that maybe you won't get an answer?
Well, I'll tell you from an investigator standpoint, we already know and realize we often don't get to know that. We want it. We all do. We naturally want that. But the reality is, it's not something that we have to have or that we get. And the reality also is that oftentimes those very things that you're asking about, they're only known to one person. It's the person that commits those crimes. And I think that's probably what we have here.
And I would add that going through this whole investigation, I'd probably say it's easier than it was for Bill's offices. We were focused on a task. We had a task to do, and it was discovering evidence and interviewing folks and that sort of thing. So the motive necessarily doesn't play a part in that, right? Obviously it can, but we were just focused on getting the job done in the correct way as best we could.
And from the prosecutor's point of view, yeah, certainly lack of a clear motive is something that we think about and consider as we're preparing for trial, because we're going to have a jury of 12, ordinary, honest citizens there who wanted to figure this thing out. But we also, and I've also found that juries tend to follow the law. And even jurors who come in with strong feelings, they tend to follow the law that the judge gives. And there is no element of motive in Idaho law for murder. And so we set that aside as something that we were going to dwell on, whether there was clear proof of a specific motive, because we knew it wasn't legally required. And practically speaking, we knew it wasn't something that we possessed that we could give to the jury without speculating. And I'm sure as heck not going to stand in front of a bunch of 12 jurors and start speculating. We're going to give them the evidence. And the evidence in this case, what you heard at the time of his guilty plea back on the 2nd, that evidence was compelling, and it showed his guilt without having to worry about motive in a human sense. Thank you for the question.
Did he say anything when he was arrested?
Yeah. So Brett, myself, members of the FBI, we traveled back to Pennsylvania. We were there. And I know they hit on it earlier, but I'd be remiss without talking about the cooperation, the support that we had from them was absolutely incredible. From the time that we got on the ground with the Pennsylvania State Police and with the FBI back there, it was unbelievable. Anything that we needed, they were there to facilitate it. So we helped to shape what that looked like, what the arrest looked like, what took place once they hit the house on the search warrant and he was taken into custody. Brett and I were at another location, a barracks of the Pennsylvania State Police. And he was brought to us and we conducted an interview with him that night there in Pennsylvania.
Can you talk about what he said?
So we went into this interview. We used a lot of influence and guidance from the FBI and their behavioral analysis unit to help us a ton in framing our interview strategy rather. When we spoke to Mr. Kohberger, we kept it pretty surface level to begin with, the idea being get him to speak and keep him speaking. It was pretty surface level. And then when we tried to get into things a bit more detailed, he decided to end the interview. So that's pretty
as soon as we tried to walk into the purpose of why we're there, which obviously he knows we're detectives from Idaho. So that's when we really started to shut down and they just shut it down. So
What was his demeanor?
calm, relaxed.
Say very similar to what you see and whenever you see him in court.
Next question. Yeah, Mike Baker from the New York Times. I'm wondering if you can talk about Mr. Kohberger's family, whether you got much cooperation, tips, input from them along the way.
The only thing I'm really able to talk about is that we didn't get any tips or any evidentiary items from the family. So, and
Just wondering if you ever had any idea of what made Mr. Kohberger take the plea deal yet?
No.
Can I ask a follow-up? I know the report.
That was a short answer. You probably have time for a short follow-up.
Can I also ask a follow-up to the investigators? I know there was some reports that there was hiding some container at the house. Did you ever determine what that was?
No, and the belief was in the one of the roommates in her statement, and that's out there, was that she observed something in his hand when she saw him, but we don't know what it was.
had an expert who was going to testify about completing something off of this work computer, some software experts. Was there any evidence that he had tried to wipe anything from his phone, software-wise? The bar charts, I believe, is their name.
Yeah, and so this kind of goes into the connection to the victims as well. That's a similar question. We had the world's foremost experts on this look into it, and there was evidence that he had used software to wipe many of his devices relatively effectively. So there wasn't much evidence obtained after that.
Including, I think he had two cell phones, or was it just one cell phone?
I think he had one active phone, but I don't remember, so don't quote me if he had more at his home.
So
or
it
else.
was more than just the work computer that he had wiped? with the
He
software?
regularly used software to try to wipe, clear things off. He used VPN on his devices also.
Kevin Fixer with the Idaho Statesman. I'm hoping you can walk us through the decision to hand off the DNA process on the knife sheet over to Offram Labs, who's contracted by ISD, and then ultimately the FBI takes over that IgG process. And then Prosecutor Thompson, I'm curious if you had concerns about constitutional rights issues based on how the FBI conducted themselves in that portion.
I'll start and I'll just speak briefly to, when we were notified that we had DNA from the knife sheath, and it was a single source male DNA, touch DNA, then we knew that we had capabilities to take that further. So you're correct, the Idaho State Police has a contract with Offram Laboratories in Texas. So we flew that over there and they started the process of working that in what was the beginning of the IgG process. And at some point during it, we were working with the FBI, which we did closely throughout the entire case and every aspect of it. We talked and met with them, and they had further resources and some capabilities that we thought may get us somewhere quicker. And so we made the decision to then shift that to the FBI and continue that process there.
And as to your question about legal concerns, my simple answer is no. I didn't have legal concerns about how the FBI conducted their IgG investigation. I know that was the subject of lengthy, detailed, painfully detailed motions and briefing, and Mr. Nye rose to the occasion and was able to address all of that. But in the end, it's simply no different than sending somebody undercover into any place to gather information. And I was not concerned about the legality of it. And the judge came through and made the right decision that there was no violation of the defendant's rights or anybody else's rights.
Had he not left the knife sheath behind, would you have been able to track him down?
We've talked about this ad nauseum. And the answer is yes. Through the car, most likely. We had some amazing people going truly line by line over tens of thousands of white Hyundai Elantras. So we believe we would have got to it through that avenue. The time frame for that is uncertain. It could have been a week later, could have been 2 months later. We just don't know. We would have found it. We would have.
There's a lot of questions in regards to that initial window. Brett and I made the decision on what that window was, even though the experts were saying there may be more years that match it, but the simple numbers that we began to look at were astronomical, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of these vehicles. So we chose to try to narrow it and start smaller. And then as we had to, we were going to open that up. But we both believe we would have gotten through the car.
A question for Mr. Thompson. Amanda Rowley with Front 2. It appears that the plea deal, it felt a bit rushed. So the question is, why did it happen so quickly, considering some of the families were against it? And also, the Mogan family at the plea hearing mentioned saying that this is the best possible outcome. Just wondering, do you agree with that, or would you have liked to have seen a different outcome?
Well, I think we agree with the Mogan family. Our decision was that this is the best possible outcome, all things considered, and factoring in into that the defendant was prepared to plead guilty as charged. Now, if that hadn't been a factor, we'd be picking a jury for trial starting right now, or starting this week. What was the first part?
Why was this such a quick, it felt rushed, so why did this happen so quickly even though the family?
No, I hear you. The process moved quickly. There was no doubt about it. And like I outlined for the court earlier today, things changed dynamically the week following the June 18th hearings on the defense motion for a continuance and the alternate perpetrator motion, where Judge Hippler made it very clear that the defense was not going to prevail on either of those. And so the reality of trial was there, and there was nothing else in its way. We were continuing to prepare for trial. We had been doing that for months, and as I mentioned, that's me bringing Mr. Hurwood in to help us because the Attorney General's office was not able, with the manpower, to help us all the way through trial. We were ready to go. When we were approached by the defense about the possibility of a plea, our first question was, is your client prepared to plead guilty? And it took them a little while to give us that answer. In the meantime, we reached out to the families and we talked to the families and we solicited their input. And we considered that in making our decision. The fact of the matter is, and I think Judge Hippler commented on this back on July 2nd when we were in court, is that the logistics of the upcoming trial with 10,000 prospective jurors being summoned in, the court staff making arrangements and preparing to process that part of the case dictated that if the case was going to resolve, it needed to resolve quickly. And so that kind of drove the pace over that weekend, the last weekend of June. At the end of the weekend, when we understood from the defense that the defendant was prepared to plead guilty, the court was notified the next morning, and the court wanted to move quickly to get a plea done on the record if it was going to be done, and if it wasn't, so we were not interrupted in our trial preparations.
The trial logistics were the main concern, just as Judge Hippler had said prior, right, with the jury as a factor.
Yeah, the practical aspect is that the trial machine was running, and if it was going to be interrupted, that had to be known as soon as possible. I think that's the fairest explanation.
Yes, Michelle, thank you for 48 hours. I just had a question about when you were looking into Kohberger's past, was there any early sign of trouble, or what did his background look like?
Well, we can't go into his younger years. I believe that's actually still under seal. Correct me if I'm wrong. But what I can tell you is the things we do know about him was that his education led him down a path that was very much focused on forensics, crime scenes, that sort of thing. So that was really what we focused on in his background, is what led him down this path. How may he have prepared for this? And I think that was a big component of that, was just his schooling and his choice of potential future profession.
And just so there's no speculation here by what Detective Payne just said, documents under seal involving Mr. Kohberger's background, they may or may not be released down the road. I can tell you that there is no evidence of any criminal history of any significant nature. There was no evidence of a history of violence. There was no evidence of a history of a factual predisposition to do the crimes that he committed here. So if there are any concerns among your listeners or readers that somehow he was a serial killer in waiting with all of these prior actions, we are not aware of any behaviors like that that preceded what happened here in Idaho.
Take this question here, and then we're gonna have two more after that.
Yeah, I'm Arctic with CBS News. This question is for Mr. Thompson. Thompson, you talked about making the predictions for the plea. It was reached, including Gonzalez's. Have you spoken to Gonzalez's afterward about their displeasure with this? And if so, what's that conversation?
We have spoken with families afterwards, and I can tell you that families that did not agree with our decision have made that very clear to us. And I don't expect anything different. I respect, and we respect, that everyone is going to grieve differently, even within family units. And Everyone is going to look at the case and possible resolutions from their own light, and they are entitled to that as victims. I'm not going to pretend that everybody was just fine with our decision, because there were families and family members who were not. And we accept that, we recognize that. It's just a fact of life.
It was stated earlier that the target is unknown. However, it's been speculated that the convicted may have encountered Maddie while she was serving at the Magritte restaurant due to the vegan menu options. When his digital data was analyzed, were there any location pins or any information there that could have connected him to where Maddie worked?
No, there wasn't. Like I said earlier, we wanted that. We looked for it in every possible way, digitally, financially, physical location, anything you could think of, anything that we thought, where is the connection? Where's the overlap? And we searched tirelessly and never found it.
At that restaurant.
I can't say that he was never there at all, but we never found any evidence at all from interviewing everybody that we possibly could, talking to every person that would have that information to be able to show that he was there or that there was a connection through the restaurant.
Last question here.
Just two follow-ups to earlier questions, if that's okay, so to make sure we're understanding everything correctly. First of all, my question about the family. You said that you gave the evidence from the family. Was there any hindrance in the investigation from the family? And was there any specific evidence you were hoping to get?
Are you talking about his family, Kohberger's? There was not any hindrance, anything, nothing that impacted us carrying out the investigation.
Thank you. And then the second follow-up, when you mentioned, like, obviously we follow this line of interest in the studies, did anything in your investigation indicate that that was chosen as part of a planning process as opposed to just an area of interest?
There was nothing aside from, we have some of his coursework where he did, a crime scene recreation, that sort of thing, but it was all part of his studies. So I don't think that any of us attributed that to a planning process per se. Certainly it was a learning process, but whether or not it was a planning process ahead of what he did, we'll probably never know that.
Yeah, and I would say we didn't find anything that would be any different than a student similar, a different student in the PhD program.
So then I'm understanding that the planning process, if you're in that investigation for that payment, was part of the planning, maybe that purchase of the paper on Amazon, you was in the first, I guess, step toward.
Did he plan it? Did he buy it with the purpose of that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
We don't
have
know.
anything to show or prove that he did that.
Well, thank you all. That concludes our Q&A section today. Hopefully we tried to get as many of you folks' questions answered as possible. I'm sure you're going to have further questions. And certainly the question was already brought up about public records requests. Just keep in mind that if you're looking for those in the future, you will need to go to each individual agency or entity that has the keepers of those records. So just to reiterate, the website that City of Moscow is going to be putting up hopefully today, that will only be Moscow Police Department records, and those will be our police reports. So we understand that this case has captured the attention of literally the world, and today's news conference was not held to relive the tragedy, but to honor those lives that were lost, to acknowledge the conclusion of this legal process and to reinforce our wavering commitment to justice, a commitment we share with you. I want to take a moment to thank the members of the media here today. We understand that you do have a vital role in helping the public comprehend the intricacies of this case, and your continued professionalism in covering this emotionally charged and complex case is appreciated. No additional comments from law enforcement will be made today, and if you have further questions, please feel free to submit those through the agency's public information officers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I promise. Yeah. Thank you.